For years, while he was chasing drug mafias, he was quietly keeping millions of dollars in cash and confiscated cocaine for himself. And it didn't stop there. Garcia built his own dark empire. He started selling the same drugs again that he had seized in the name of the law. No one could catch him because he was part of the system, always one step ahead of everyone. So who was this man really? How did an officer who was supposed to protect the law become its biggest enemy? What happened that made him destroy everything he once promised to protect? This is the story of a DEA agent who fooled the entire world, secretly creating a web no one could even understand. But things weren't always like this. Once he was known as an honest and capable officer. His name was linked with respect, not corruption. Born in New York City, Garcia grew up with discipline. During the Vietnam War, he served in the Army for 3 years, a time that gave him a strong sense of duty and ambition. Later, he moved to Los Angeles to start a new life. The city was full of opportunities, and for someone like Garcia, it was the perfect place. But he wasn't just known for wearing the police uniform. He had another talent that took him from the streets of LA to the world of martial arts and even Hollywood. After training with famous fighter and actor Chuck Norris, Garcia made a name for himself in martial arts. He won several tournaments and earned a reputation not just as a fighter, but as a passionate and hardworking man. By the early 1970s, his name had already started spreading in the world of martial arts. Because of his hard work, dedication, and victories, he got an opportunity no one could have imagined. Hollywood came calling. In 1973, he got a role in Bruce Lee's film Enter the Dragon, one of the most iconic martial arts movies ever made. But while many people dream of a career in movies, Garcia's true dream was something else. He didn't want to be in front of the camera. He wanted to serve the law. As soon as that short Hollywood phase ended, Garcia joined the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. He brought with him the discipline of the Army, the self-confidence from martial arts, and a mindset ready to face any challenge. He quickly started making a name for himself in the department. His ability to work in dangerous areas, his calm attitude under pressure, and his strong self-belief made him stand out from other officers. He was smart, streetwise, and very ambitious from the inside. Soon these qualities caught the attention of the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. In 1978, Garcia became a part of the DEA, America's most powerful agency in the fight against drugs. This wasn't just a job, it was a mission. For Garcia, it was like a dream come true, a position that gave him respect, power, and influence. His experience, his image, and his results, all of it made him look like a rising star within the agency. But as the years passed, a truth slowly started to wear him down from the inside. Long daily shifts, dangerous missions, and constant fights with drug cartels. After a point, it all began to feel tiring and pointless. Garcia was excellent at his job, maybe even the best, but his salary didn't match the risk and hard work he was putting in. Every day, he put his life on the line. And on the other side, he saw the lives of drug dealers, big mansions, luxury cars, and flashy lifestyles. And what about him? He could barely manage his expenses. Los Angeles was a city where the gap between rich and poor was clearly visible. On one side, huge houses and fancy cars. On the other, drug dens and broken down buildings. Most of Garcia's time was spent in those dark alleys. Every morning, he'd pass by wealth and luxury on his way to work, and then face the brutal reality, the dark world of drugs. This daily contrast left a question in his heart. How are the people destroying the city with drugs living in comfort, and people like us who risk our lives always struggling? This wasn't just about the unfair system anymore. Now it was about money. In every DEA operation, millions in cash would be seized. Piles of money, all from drug dealers' dirty business. Usually all of it would go to the government or be locked away as evidence. But Garcia noticed something. Not everything was always recorded. Sometimes no one even checked. The system wasn't airtight, there were cracks. And through those cracks, greed slowly started slipping into Garcia's heart. It all started with a small incident. There was a raid in South Central Los Angeles. After the chaos settled, Garcia found himself alone, and right in front of him was a bag filled with cash. No one was counting it. No one was watching. And at that moment, he made a decision, one that would change the course of his life. He slipped a few $100s into his pocket and told himself, "I risk my life every day. I deserve this." But what he thought was a small step quickly turned into a habit. Each time Garcia gave himself a reason. "I'm not taking this from some innocent person. These are drug dealers. They don't deserve this money. I do." With every raid, Garcia started seeing new opportunities. He no longer saw cash as evidence. He now saw it as a resource, something he could quietly take and use without anyone noticing. To him, it no longer felt wrong. The system itself was dirty. The city was already rotten. And he was just taking his share. And the more he got away with it, the bolder he became. What started as small-time stealing had now turned into a path from which there was no turning back. For Garcia, just stealing cash wasn't enough anymore. He had started thinking bigger. The drugs seized during raids, especially cocaine, were worth millions on the street. These drugs could become a money-making machine. But Garcia couldn't do it alone. So he brought two trusted partners into his plan, Ed Williams and Brian Harford, both DEA agents who had also begun to feel the same greed and temptation that Garcia did. Together, the three formed a secret ring. Because who checks the law when the law is the one breaking it? It all started with carefully chosen raids. Garcia, Williams, and Harford only targeted the operations where they knew there would be a large haul. After every raid, they would quietly take their cut from the seized goods. They knew the system inside out, so hiding their theft was easy. They came up with a simple but clever method. Take the cocaine, replace it with baking soda, and leave just a little real cocaine so that when it went for lab testing, the results would still come back clean. The plan was foolproof. Every report passed. No one suspected a thing. To everyone else, they were still just DEA agents doing their jobs. No longer just about stealing drugs. Garcia and his team were now running their own drug business. Over time, their greed kept growing. What started as a few grams turned into entire kilos of cocaine going missing. They weren't just taking drugs from small-time dealers anymore. They were skimming off the top during big raids, stockpiling cocaine, and selling it on the streets, using old undercover contacts. The same criminals Garcia once arrested were now distributing drugs for him. The line between law and crime had completely disappeared. But for Garcia, it wasn't just about the money, it was about control, power, and ego. With every theft, with every deal, he felt stronger. He believed he had outsmarted the system. He was playing both sides and no one could catch him. And now it wasn't just about cash. Now it was about millions. Hiding money in Los Angeles had become too risky, so they started moving it to secret bank accounts in countries like Switzerland and Luxembourg. They laundered every dollar, transferred it, and built a web so complex that neither the DEA nor the FBI could trace it. What started as stealing a few $100s had now become a multi-million-dollar international scheme. Garcia wasn't just an agent anymore. He had become just like the criminals he used to chase, only smarter, more careful, and far more dangerous. And as his empire grew, so did his pride. In his mind, it was clear, no one can catch me. Darnell Garcia's network was unstoppable for a while. His operation was running perfectly. Drugs were stolen, the money was laundered, and the profits were sent overseas. But no secret stays hidden forever. As the operation grew, it started attracting attention. And the most dangerous part was that this attention was coming from his own agency. By the mid-1980s, whispers had started spreading inside the DEA. There were errors in evidence records, missing money, and most of all, Garcia's sudden, luxurious lifestyle caught everyone's attention. An internal investigation began. But Garcia wasn't just any criminal. He knew the system inside out, and he played every move carefully. Every stolen dollar, every missing packet of cocaine, he had hidden everything so cleverly that it was hard to even suspect him. Investigators started using polygraph tests, lie detector, on several officers. But Garcia refused to take the test. He said it violated his rights and claimed the accusations were all part of a setup. He knew exactly how the DEA worked. After all, he had spent his whole career catching criminals who tried to fool the law. Now he was using that same experience to protect himself. Garcia believed he would get away like always. But suspicion is a slow poison. Once it starts, it spreads everywhere. Now investigators were checking his bank details, watching at every transaction, and tracking his every move. Then came the twist that changed everything. 1986, the arrest that changed the game. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department arrested 2 local drug dealers. At first, it seemed like just another regular arrest. But during the interrogation, these dealers revealed a shocking secret. They said they were not getting drugs from any usual supplier, but from someone inside the law itself. And that person was Brian Hartford, Garcia's most trusted partner. Now the DEA finally had solid evidence. They began tracking Hartford, and very soon it became clear. He was working with Garcia and their third partner, Williams, and together they were running the entire illegal operation. Now every move made by Garcia, Hartford, and Williams was being closely watched. Their phone calls were recorded, their meetings were tracked, and their every trip was monitored. As the DEA tightened its grip, Garcia's confidence started to shake. Garcia had always believed he would stay one step ahead of the system, but slowly a mountain of evidence was building up against him. Suspicious bank records, millions of dollars in transactions with no clear source, surveillance footage. Garcia was seen meeting well-known drug traffickers. Direct evidence of drug theft. This was no longer just suspicion. Garcia's name was now directly linked to stolen narcotics. His arrogance had protected him until now. He believed he knew the system so well that he could never be caught. But the truth was, it was now just a matter of time. November 1988, DEA decided it was time. After months of investigation, surveillance, and witness statements, they made a full plan to arrest Garcia. Everything was ready. The agents were just waiting for one signal, the moment to strike. But Garcia had always stayed one step ahead. One phone call changed everything. Just hours before the arrest, Garcia received a call. It wasn't from a fellow criminal, it was from his girlfriend, who worked at the LA County Courthouse. She had seen the arrest warrant issued against Garcia. He didn't have much time, but it was enough. He didn't panic. He had already prepared for this moment. What should I do if things go bad? Garcia had thought about this before. He immediately put his escape plan into action, and within a few hours, Garcia disappeared from Los Angeles forever. When the DEA team raided Garcia's house, all they found were memories of his old life, photos of him with fast cars, clips from exotic vacations, stories of a luxury lifestyle, all built with drug money. But Garcia himself, he was gone. The law was left empty-handed. For the DEA, this was a huge blow. They had spent years collecting every piece of evidence, tracking every move. And when the time finally came, Garcia vanished, right under their nose. Garcia didn't run off to hide in some jungle or a small village. He played an even bigger game. He began hiding his identity at an international level. He used the Swiss bank accounts he had secretly set up over the years in Switzerland, Luxembourg, and other secret financial havens. Garcia had millions of dollars, and that was his greatest weapon. But he couldn't live his whole life underground. For Garcia, running away wasn't just about escaping, it had become a game. 7 months ahead of the law, in early 1989, Garcia kept moving from one European city to another. He was using his hidden money in Switzerland, Luxembourg, and other secret banking hubs. With a fake identity and secret routes, he managed to fool both Interpol and the DEA. His millions of dollars were helping him stay out of the law's reach. But then came the moment when his own pride became the reason for his downfall. June 1st, 1989. One small mistake that cost him big. This time, Garcia was hiding in Luxembourg. He had been staying there for weeks, and recently he had closed one of his Swiss bank accounts. He took out millions of dollars and hid the money in plastic bags. But Garcia's greed wasn't satisfied. He went to a travel agency and tried to get a refund on a $200 plane ticket he had bought earlier. For Garcia, $200 was nothing. But that one small move turned into a big clue for Interpol. At the travel agency, there was a woman working there, and she recognized Garcia. Something felt off to her. She had seen Garcia before, and now he was back asking for a refund. Quietly, she picked up the phone and called Interpol. Interpol immediately issued an alert. When Garcia walked out of the travel agency, he was calm. He thought no one was watching him. But within moments, Interpol agents arrived. With guns drawn, they rushed toward him. Garcia had no way out. He didn't even try to run. His game of escaping the law was finally over. The process of bringing Garcia back from Luxembourg to the U.S. was quick and smooth. He was brought to America under heavy security. He was no longer a respected agent. Now he was a criminal. Wearing handcuffs, he was being prepared to face the consequences of his double life. The same agency he once worked for was now standing against him. When Garcia was brought into the courtroom for the first time, he looked helpless. He had millions of dollars, but now none of it could save him. The secret Swiss bank accounts were useless. All the fake identities he created in Europe meant nothing anymore. In front of the world, he was no longer an agent, just a criminal. The case against Garcia was one of the most complex in DEA's history, an investigation that lasted for years. A crime network spread across multiple countries, secret bank accounts and millions of dollars in transactions. The government was fully determined Garcia would be punished for every crime he had committed. There was a long line of people ready to testify against Garcia in court. Some were his former partners, people who once trusted him the most. Some were DEA agents who had worked with him, never knowing he was betraying them. Each witness became a strong weapon against Garcia in the courtroom. But the biggest blow came when Garcia's own partners in crime turned against him. Yes, we're guilty, but the real mastermind was Garcia. When Brian Hartford and Williams started testifying, the courtroom fell silent. We stole drugs, laundered money, and sold the stolen cocaine again. But the real mastermind behind it all was Garcia. There were no secrets left now. Every witness, every piece of evidence was sealing Garcia's fate. Bank records, revealing millions in illegal transactions. Drug shipment papers, showing how the stolen cocaine was sold on the black market. Cocaine bags mixed with baking soda, switched with real DEA seizures. Garcia, who was once a protector of law and order, had now become its biggest criminal. The jury gave its decision. Garcia was found guilty on all charges: drug trafficking, conspiracy, and money laundering. Each crime was proven. His punishment, 80 years in prison and a $1.6 million fine. All his illegal assets were seized. Garcia, who once arrested criminals, was now a prisoner himself. The man who fooled the law for years had now become just another inmate in the very system he once controlled. The man who thought he was untouchable was now locked behind bars forever. His fortune was gone, his power destroyed, and his name was written in history, not as a hero, but as a traitor.